If you trained as a hypnotherapist, you were probably taught that deeper is better, that getting a client to the deepest state available is the goal, that if you can't get them there, you haven't done your job. In my book, Advanced Hypnosis, I challenge this directly. Depth is a tool, not a goal. Today, I want to walk you through the 3 working depths, what each one is actually for, and the mistake that costs practitioners more sessions than any other, defaulting to deep regardless of what the work needs. Let me start with the framework. There are 3 working depths: light, medium, and deep. Each does specific work, and none is better than another. At light, the client's breathing slows naturally, but their face stays responsive. They can open their eyes easily. They can talk to you, answer questions, and notice internal shifts as they happen. They can tell you what they're experiencing without being asked. The work that lives at light is confidence, habit awareness, reframing beliefs, and rehearsing new responses. Anything where the client needs to see a pattern and practice responding differently. Use light when the client needs to be an active participant in what's happening. Watch for the client telling you about the feeling rather than being in it. If their language stays logical and explanatory, if they're saying, "I know it started when I was young," instead of "I can feel it right now," they may need to go a little deeper for the emotional material to become accessible. At medium, the client's breathing deepens. Their face softens. There's less movement. They pause before responding. The silence feels productive. The client can feel emotion without being overwhelmed. They can sit with discomfort long enough for it to move. They respond to your voice, but from a deeper, less rehearsed place. The work that lives at medium is emotional pattern work, identity, self-concept, empowering questions during hypnosis, and root association work. Anything where the client needs to feel the roots and integrate at the same time. Use medium when the work needs emotional access with enough presence to integrate. Watch for 2 signals. The client starts reasoning or narrating again, which means they've lightened, or they go quiet and stop responding to your voice, which means they've gone too deep. Adjust in either direction based on what the work needs. At deep, the client is very still. Slow, rhythmic breathing. Minimal facial expression. Verbal response is delayed or absent. The client can let the body release what it's holding, receive suggestions without analyzing them, and allow the conscious mind to step aside. The work that lives at deep is deep relaxation, body level release, chronic tension, and pain work. Anything where the conscious mind is blocking progress. Use deep when the body needs to work without the conscious mind managing it. Watch for the client to stop responding to suggestion entirely or to drift into sleep. You've lost the working state. Lighten until responsiveness returns. There's a boundary worth naming. Beyond deep is dissociative territory, where the client loses access to awareness, language, and orientation. That's outside the scope of this work. If a client consistently dissociates to that degree, they may benefit from trauma-informed therapy before or alongside hypnosis. Recognizing that boundary is part of ethical practice. The mistake isn't going deep. It's defaulting to deep regardless of what the session needs. If you push past the depth the work requires, you lose access to the very things you came in to do. Conversation closes. Real-time integration is gone. The client can't articulate what's surfacing because they don't have language access at that depth. If you stay too light when the work needs depth, you stay on the surface and the change doesn't hold. Both errors come from the same root mistake, defaulting, picking a depth out of habit instead of matching it to what the work requires. There is one context where pursuing the deepest available depth is strategically valuable. The first session. In the first session, you're not just doing the work in front of you. You're laying down what's called the depth anchor. You're guiding the client to the deepest state they can reach comfortably. Once they've reached it, You embed a post-hypnotic suggestion that each time you use a specific cue, most often the number 0, the client returns to that state quickly and calmly. The client doesn't need to consciously remember the depth they reached. The subconscious holds the reference. When the anchor is used in future sessions, it signals a return to that known internal territory, or deeper still, as the hypnotic relationship develops. This compresses induction time in future sessions. It builds trust by giving the client a familiar pathway inward, and it establishes safety, not because depth itself is the goal, but because the client's subconscious has learned that this internal space is stable and within their reach. Even if a client accesses only a light state in a later session, the anchor still provides a settling cue. The subconscious recognizes the signal, and comfort follows. The anchor isn't a demand for a particular depth, it's an invitation back to a place that has already been established as safe. After the first session, the question that replaces, can I get them deeper, is this, what does this work actually need? If you're doing reframing or habit work, stay light. The client needs to participate. If you're doing emotional pattern work or identity work, go to medium. The client needs access to feeling without overwhelm. If you're doing body level release, pain work, or chronic tension, go deep. The conscious mind needs to step entirely out of the way. That's the framework. The question is not how deep you can take a client. The question is how deep this work needs them to go. Match the depth to the work. That's the shift. If you want the full framework, including the depth table I just walked through and the rest of the shifts that change how a session lands, my book, Advanced Hypnosis, A Practitioner's Guide Beyond Scripts and Techniques, goes deeper. Link is in the description. Thanks for watching.